Right, well, welcome back, or maybe I should welcome myself back since it's been so long since I've been at the workshop and made a video. It's about time we got back to doing Kato, the Krusty Kawasaki. Whilst I've not been at the workshop, I've been doing a lot of thinking about how to mount this tank, and for all the thinking I've done, I've not actually come up with anything because I think it's going to be quite a difficult task. So, this tank, the DT250 tank, is so tight over there that I actually can't position it the way I want it to right now. I think however we look at it, there are going to have to be compromises made on this tank because I don't really want to get into modifying the tank. That's a little bit further than I would want to go. So, I think the best thing to do is to get under there and see what room we can free up. Can we move some of the electrics? Can we skim down some of the bolts? What can we do to make this a better fit on there and give us a little bit more room to play with? Now, electrical stuff, I'm happy to relocate because I think I might put that in a box under the seat so it can be serviced really, really easily if anything goes wrong. That being said, the head steady is under there and a few other little bits and bobs that I'm not sure what we'll be able to do with them. So, I think we best dive into it and try and get a bit creative. So I have removed the coil from here, which gives me a little bit more space, and I've also removed the horn and taken the throttle cable off, so it's not running down air anymore. It's less confusing for me. It fits on a lot better. It now fits symmetrically, but what it does do is it butts up against these bolts on the head steady. Obviously that's an issue whilst it does go over there. If you're thinking about the vibration that motorcycle makes, it won't be long before it probably will cause an issue, and it will probably make an annoying noise, and we don't want that. So we're going to tackle it now. I'm going to take these out and see, one, if I can replace them with a shallower bolt. If not, I'm going to have to grind them down. Now, I don't really want to grind them down because the best way to go about it would be to use the lathe, but the lathe is still broken. So I think we'll just have to take it out and go from there. Hopefully we can find another bolt that's a little bit shallower profile and we'll get away with it. Right, so I've removed the main head steady fixing point, and that's what it looks like. And I've since found this bolt which has a shallower hex on it. It's only by about 3mm. So you might be thinking I'm nuts for doing that, but actually it just about gives us the clearance that we need. That coupled with the fact that this one could have been cut down because it had some excess thread sticking through. I've now done that, so this one is also shorter as well. So we're going to pop that in and see where we're at. Right, so whilst that's bought us a little bit of room, we can now get the tank down further. We've bumped into our next point where the tank collides with a part of the existing motorcycle. And that is up here, this little breather compartment and the bolts that go into it. Now the bolts are the first thing that are interfering with it, but the second is the actual compartment. So I think our best bet here is to remove that. We can see potentially what we're dealing with. I have a plan to get around the bolts, but I think we're just gonna have to take it off and have a look. But it is hard work. I hate fighting for space where you're just trying to buy millimeters. It is so annoying, but this tank does look really good on there. So I suppose we'll have to work for it. We've come this far. Let's crack on. so now that I have this off the motorcycle, it's time to tell you about the plan I'm formulating. And it seems quite pathetic, to be honest, fighting for a couple of millimetres over and over again. I'm trying to think of better ways to do this all, but I can't. So this is what I'm going to do. This is the original bolt that sits in there like so, but it sits up, let's say, 4mm higher than this lip, which is the next limiting factor for what the tank would hit. However, I think if I can get it to sit where the top of that bolt finishes, that'll be a good place. But obviously we can't do that with those bolts in there because it'll hit. So what am I going to do? Well, I've got an Allen bolt of the same length, same pitch of thread, that should go straight in there. That is the same width as the bolt, but because you undo an Allen bolt from the middle, I could actually countersink it into this a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to countersink it down till it sits about flush with this, maybe a little bit lower, and I don't think it will remove that much of strength because these are about 15mm thick. So I think we'll be all right there. There's no major strain on there. It is a steady, it's not really an engine mount. I think what we might end up doing is I'm going to have to get this tank to a placement where I think, right, that's okay, and then we're going to have to modify the rear section of the frame to fit it in terms of making it look nice and sit better. I also think we're going to have to get creative with that seat pan because I can see that the rear mount of the tank is going to stick up quite a lot. I'm not sure how I'm going to go about doing that either. But I'm going to take this over to the drill now and just drill these out to the depth they need to be, pop them in, and again, we'll see where we're at. It's all testing things out to see what works at the moment. So the other thing worth mentioning about doing this is for those bolts to seat correctly, it needs to be a flat bottom drill. I haven't got one at the moment, but that is something I'm going to come back to because I'm actually going to have the engine out of the frame at some point, and there's a couple of bits I want to do with that. That being said, I need to be cracking on with mounting that tank, so for now I'm going to take them down to a depth where I can later on square off the bottom, and at least for now we can get on with the overall look and how we want that tank to sit. So I've just drilled out those, they're looking pretty smart actually, and now I'm going to pop it back on and hopefully these should pop down. Now they're not going to pop down totally flush because I haven't used that flat drill bit to get the flattened hole in there, so it's still got a slight angle in it from the drill bit I used, but I think it's going to give us enough room. So let's talk for a moment why I don't really want to do this. It's too late now because I've done it and I knew this anyway, but let's talk about why it might not be such a good idea. The previous bolt covered the entirety of the hull, which is good. And the reason that's good is moisture will get down there. And if moisture gets in between steel and aluminium, I've talked about this before, it will corrode. It forms a weld-like bond. So by actually countersinking these in there, there is going to be a small gap around there. Obviously it's a dip. That will encourage water to get stuck in there and could cause problems down the line. That being said, hopefully they're problems I know how to deal with by now. Also, I'll give it a little smidgen of grease that should help that situation. And there's no other way. So that's the way I'm going to do it. But yeah, if you are going to do that sort of thing, just be aware that that could be a problem down the line. Anyway, let's get it popped back on there. Okay, so that's actually come out really, really well. It goes down to just about where I want it to, and obviously it will go down a little bit further when it's finished, which is great. We've got a little bit more room. Now, before we go about putting that head steady back on, what I'd quite like to do is to get into here and remove this, because this is where the tank previously mounted, and I've had a little look, and the mountings for the new tank are going to be in a similar position. So I want to get rid of that piece and make sure we've got a lovely blank canvas to get cracking with. Right, that area is all cleaned up now, which is good, because it means that when it comes to mounting the front of the tank, we can just hopefully have an easier way of mounting it on there, and it will look a little bit nicer as well. So now that we've done those two modifications, I think it's time we put the head steady back on, and we'll have a look at where that tank sits. Hopefully it's a vast improvement, but we will see. So I've popped the tank back on there, and I'm pleased to say that it fits a lot nicer now. There's less chance of fouling and stuff. We're still going to have to be clever about how we mount it, especially at the back there. I haven't worked that out, but do you know what? Not being at the workshop, and the way I get myself to sleep at night is to think about motorcycles, what I'm going to do to them, how I'm going to solve problems. That's how I live. And this has plagued me, considering I haven't been at the workshop for over a month as well. Every single night it's been doing my nutting, to be honest with you. And now that I've done those few jobs, I feel much clearer about it, much more ready to crack on. So this is good progress. I'm really pleased to be back here. I'm pleased to be making another video. So I hope you guys have really enjoyed it. Thank you for hanging in there whilst life has been beating me to death. I appreciate it very much. So if you did enjoy the video, make sure you give it a like. And if you want the next instalment, make sure you subscribe, because I can't wait to make it. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.